I still remember the first time I realized she was watching me again. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed a photo sent from an unknown number. My cabin seen through the trees, lights on, and beneath it the words, "You're playing with fire." For a long moment I just stared at it, my coffee gone cold. I thought I'd won months ago when the HOA voted her out. I thought I'd buried that nightmare, but Karen, she wasn't the kind of monster you defeat. She was the kind that lingers. I bought my cabin at Lake Pine Ridge to escape people like her. 2 acres of pine, a quiet lake, the kind of peace you only earn after the world's chewed you up. I'd been there 3 years before the HOA decided my rustic aesthetic didn't fit their vision of paradise. The president, Karen Alden, made sure I never forgot that my land might be mine on paper, but in her mind it belonged to the community. The first time she crossed the line, I woke to the crunch of heels on gravel. Out my window, a woman in a pastel blazer stood beside a realtor with a "for sale" sign like she was staging a photo shoot. My coffee nearly flew across the room. I stepped outside, flannel pants, bed hair and all, and said, "Can I help you too, or are you just trespassing for fun today?" Karen turned that practiced smile freezing on her face. "Oh, we didn't think anyone was home," she said sweetly, clutching her clipboard like it was a badge of authority. "This is Jeff the realtor. We're assessing property values for the HOA." Jeff looked like he wanted to disappear. I was told the owner approved the showing. "Funny," I said, "because the owner's standing right here and the owner would remember doing that." Karen's smile cracked. "Technically, the HOA can request inspections for community improvement. This cabin doesn't fit our neighborhood's image." "My grandfather built this deck," I said. "If that offends your image, that's your problem." She sniffed. "You're welcome to modernize, of course. A fresh look could raise your property value." Or I said I could install security cameras and charge admission next time you show up uninvited. She left in a huff, heels clicking like gunfire. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just nosy. She was the kind of person who thought power was a personality trait. Over the next week, the letters started coming. One claimed my solar panels were unauthorized obstructions. Another said my flagpole violated height symmetry. A third accused my firewood pile of disrupting neighborhood harmony. I sent back a single reply. "You might be confusing harmony with dictatorship. Stop harassing me." She didn't stop. The following Saturday, she came back with another realtor and a drone buzzing over my roof. I walked out, phone raised. "Smile for the lawsuit," I said. The realtor bolted. Karen stayed arms crossed. "You're wasting potential," she hissed. "Whose potential?" I asked. "Yours or your resale commission?" Her lips curled. "You'll come around. Everyone does." That night I realized Karen had a pattern she'd been using HOA pressure to force people out. 3 families had sold under compliance violations, and every house bought by her friends. Well, not this one. So I played her game, but my way. I looked up her house in county records, found her name, her number, her glossy, perfect home photos from the HOA site. Then I listed it online. $1. Charming home, one owner includes free gossip and unsolicited opinions. By sundown, her phone must have melted. She showed up screaming in my driveway. "You think this is funny? My house is listed for $1. I shrugged. "Weird. Maybe a hacker didn't like your community improvement projects." "You'll regret this," she spat. Maybe I said, but at least I didn't trespass twice in 1 week. By morning, her meltdown had gone viral in the neighborhood chat. People were sharing screenshots, memes, even fake bids for $2. Her reputation cracked like cheap plaster. I didn't need to lift a finger after that. Her pride finished the job. But that's when she got dangerous. A few nights later, I got that first photo my cabin taken from the woods. The lights were on. I hadn't heard a thing. Then came a message. "You're playing with fire." That was the first time I felt afraid. Not angry, not annoyed, afraid. I went straight to the sheriff's office. Deputy Howard, a quiet man who'd grown up around here, looked at the picture and sighed. "You think it's her? She's the only one obsessed enough," I said. He nodded. "We've had complaints before. She once broke into a neighbor's garage to inspect paint color. I'll send a cruiser by tonight." That night, my security cameras caught her Lexus creeping past the driveway, headlights off. She didn't stop, but I knew. I knew she was still out there. By dawn, I'd had enough. I wasn't going to be her next victim. I emailed the HOA board, attached the footage, and wrote, "If your president shows up here again, I'll file a restraining order. Community oversight ends at my property line." They didn't reply, but later that day Karen's husband Rick came by. A quiet man, eyes tired, voice low. "I'm sorry," he said. "She's under pressure. Some of the board's questioning her leadership." "She should be worried," I said. "She's broken half your bylaws herself." He sighed. "She can't stand losing control." I watched him leave, slumped shoulders fading into the trees. And that's when it hit me. People like Karen don't crave power because they're strong. They crave it because they're terrified of being irrelevant. Still, I decided to end it cleanly. That night, I printed 10 fake HOA notices. President temporarily suspended pending investigation. I slipped one into every mailbox. By morning, the neighborhood was on fire with gossip. Karen tore through the street, ripping letters out of boxes, screaming, "Who did this?" I almost felt bad. Almost. Then it turned dark. My cameras pinged just before midnight. A hooded figure on my porch, crouching by the handle. I shouted through the door. "Smile for the camera. Karen." The figure bolted into the woods. Later, I checked the footage. It wasn't her. It was Rick. When I showed it to Howard, he frowned. "You want to press charges?" "Not yet," I said. "Something tells me he's not doing this for fun." The next morning, Karen stormed up my drive again, red blouse, sunglasses, shaking with rage. "You called the cops on my husband. He was trying to break in," I said. "He was leaving a letter," she snapped. With a crowbar, she faltered, then hissed, "You don't belong here. You're toxic to this community." Funny, I said the community didn't seem to think so when your house went up for $1. For a flicker, I saw something human shame maybe, but it vanished behind her mask. "This isn't over," she said. "I'm counting on it." Within days, the HOA called a disciplinary hearing against me. I showed up, dropped a folder of photos, emails, and the sheriff's summons on the table. "These are the facts," I said. "Trespass, harassment, stalking. That's your president." The board sat in silence. Karen's face drained of color. Finally, one member said, "I think we should postpone this hearing." Karen slammed her hand down. "You're all cowards." I stood. "You're doing that just fine on your own." That was the last time I saw her in charge. 2 days later, she was officially removed as HOA president. But the victory felt hollow, because that's when the lake began to drop. At first, it was just a few inches. Then, whole sections of the shoreline turned to mud. My neighbor Mason called me one evening, whispering, "You need to see this." We met by the dock at sunset. The padlock on the runoff valve lay in the dirt, broken. The wheel was half turned open. Water poured into the drainage pipe. "She's draining the lake," I said. "Rick told me she's been sneaking down here every night," Mason said. That night I found her. She was kneeling by the valve wrench in hand, hair wild blouse streaked with mud. "Karen," I shouted. She looked up, eyes feverish. "You made them hate me. You ruined everything." "Stop this, Karen. The sheriff already knows. You're making it worse." "They think I'm crazy," she whispered. "Do you?" I hesitated. "No, I think you're terrified." She smiled, a small, broken smile, and turned the valve again. Water roared, a violent whirlpool pulling debris into the drain. I lunged, grabbed her arm, dragged her back as we both slipped. For a second, we were hanging over the edge, spray blinding us. Then I yanked hard, slamming the wheel shut. We collapsed on the concrete, gasping. She stared at the sky and whispered, "You shouldn't have saved me." "Someone had to," I said. When the deputies arrived, she didn't resist. Just sat there staring at the half-drained lake. Karen was charged with criminal mischief and banned from HOA property. Rick filed for divorce. I thought it was finally over. Then, a week later, I got a letter. No return address. 1 sentence. I thought about drowning that night, but that would make you the hero forever. After that, little things started happening again. Footsteps on gravel. The porch chair moved. Mailbox flag up with no mail. My motion lights flickered at 2 a.m. every night like a pulse. Then one night my camera caught her or something shaped like her standing just beyond the property line holding a hammer. She didn't move, just watched. The sheriff said, as long as she stays off your land, she's not violating probation. So I waited. Days later, a dozen dead fish appeared on my dock soaked in gasoline. I turned one over, gagging on the smell. Her message was clear: if she couldn't control the lake, she'd poison it instead. The police raided her aunt's house where she'd been staying. They found a wall covered in photos, my cabin map's notes labeled "Enemies of Order." My name was at the top. A week of silence followed. Then, one night, flames rose across the lake. Karen's house, what was left of it, burned to the ground. The firefighters said it was arson. She was nowhere to be found. Later that night, my power flickered, then died. The generator kicked in and my motion light snapped on. Out there at the edge of the trees, Karen. Or her ghost. Pale face, eyes empty. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. When the deputies searched the woods the next morning, they found nothing but an envelope nailed to a tree. I'm not gone. Weeks later, they found footprints leading into the lake, barefoot, small, female. They never found a body. The news called it a tragedy of community conflict gone too far. But sometimes late at night when the moon hits the water just right, the lake turns to glass. No wind, no sound, perfect reflection. And if I stare long enough, I swear I see her shape beneath the surface hair, drifting, eyes open, still watching. That's the thing about people like Karen. You can't bury control. You can only survive it.